What is a not fun fact? The reason you're supposed to contact a doctor if you have an erection lasting longer than 4 hours is because prolonged priapism can lead to gangrene of the dick. Blood goes in, deoxygenates, but can't leave, so there's no way for fresh oxygenated blood to come in, causing the tissue to turn black and die. Don't worry, though. This can be treated by using a big syringe to suck the trapped blood out. There are 8 unaccounted for American nukes and literally an unknown quantity of missing Soviet nukes that range all the way from warheads to suitcase bombs. Horses can't throw up. So if they eat something bad or get a bad gas bubble, they just lay down and die. When you get a sunburn, it's actually your cells dying so they don't get tumorous. Valentine's Day is a holiday with one of the highest suicide rates. There is a mysterious illness called the sweating sickness that hit in multiple small epidemics in the early modern era. It was incredibly contagious and massively deadly, with about a 50% average death rate, but it could be higher. It began with an ominous sense of apprehension, followed by severe pains in the neck and giddiness. They then abruptly stopped and switched to heavy sweating, headaches and delirium. Finally, the person was hit with an extreme urge to sleep, and it was thought to be fatal if you fell to it. We know almost nothing about it, nothing about how it spread, how it was caused, only that if you got it you were either surviving or dead within 24 hours. There are horror stories of people leaving town on hunting trips and returning the same day to find almost everybody in the village dead, with only a few scattered survivors. The worst thing was, you did not gain immunity. You could live through the sweating sickness once, and then get it a few days later and die. Or live through it 2 or 3 times, and then get it and die. It was horrific, and we don't know why it disappeared and we don't know if it will ever return. Edit, I seem to be posting the wiki link a lot, so here it is. People who commit suicide by jumping off a bridge, those who don't die from the impact, drown because the impact breaks enough bones that prevents them from swimming. The lemmings are not suicidal, and the documentary What Film Did was actually showing lemmings getting thrown down a cliff because they needed the scene but couldn't make the animals do it. A certain type of anglerfish reproduce via the male burrowing into the side of the female, eventually fusing. The male life is lost in the process. There is a genetic disease called FOP where your muscles and tissue turn to bone. Often called human statue disease. Eventually people may have to decide whether they want to become frozen in a sitting or flat/standing position. In the United States roughly 1/3 of all food is thrown away each year. Spider rain, you read that right, is a real and naturally occurring phenomenon. Urine was used for teeth whitening and bleaching of clothes in ancient Rome. Yes, they rinsed their mouth with human and animal urine. If you eat a polar bear liver, you will die. Humans can't handle that much vitamin A. Some perfumes, or more specifically, musks you use come from the anal and secretion glands of musk deers and civet cats. A blue-ringed octopus, found in the Pacific, is a tiny and cute little guy, but one painless bite gives enough venom to kill 25 male adults. Edit, changed sting to bite. Also note, as long as you are given medical attention within an hour of you receiving the bite, you'll be fine. You can smell your own lungs. Your brain just filters out the smell. Cute, fuzzy little sea otters are known to rape baby seals to death. People with extreme scurvy start to have all of their old wounds open up. Everything with a scar is held together via an active process with collagen, and without vitamin C just sort of stop. In 2017, 10,000 people died awaiting their disability decision. Bed bugs procreate by traumatic insemination. Males literally stab females with their genitals. So, just another reason to hate them then. Migraines and strokes carry a lot of the same symptoms, so if you suffer regular migraines you may not notice you're actually dying one day. In Australia there is a plant called the gympie which has such a severe sting that horses who brush against it throw themselves off cliffs because they'd rather die than continue to experience the pain. Penguins rape the hell out of anything that looks vaguely penguin-like or doesn't move. In fact, it was so rampant that the 1910-13 Scott Antarctic expedition decided it was best not to bring it up so society wouldn't have to deal with the issue it would bring up. Scientists witnessed males having sex with other males and also with dead females, including several that had died the previous year. He also saw them sexually coerce females and chicks and occasionally kill them. The scientists blamed this astonishing depravity on hooligan males and wrote down his observations in Greek so that only an educated gentleman would understand the /horrors he had witnessed. Male dolphins like to hunt fertile female in groups and hound them because they are unwilling. The females are often injured during this, some even die. If you are an identical twin, it is very possible that you and your siblings' identities were swapped and your parents never caught it. Greifswald Nuclear Power Plant, 1976, the almost Chernobyl of East Germany. In short, due to a short circuit resulting in a fire, almost all coolant pumps failed. The New York Times says, /Chernobyl scale nuclear disaster was prevented only when a single water pump in the emergency cooling system was able to draw off pressurized water heated to high temperature by the decay heat left in the reactor's core, thus preventing a meltdown. This incident became public with reunification in 1989. Climbing Mount Everest has a 6.5% mortality rate. What's more harrowing is that if you die, you will most likely be left there. There's currently over 200 dead bodies on Everest that are irretrievable, and now serve as markers for other climbers. Not a bad place to eternally rest, but upsetting for those left behind who can't give you a proper burial. Rabies is terrifying. You can get it and not even know it from bats, which live across the globe. It might hit you right away, it might be in 3 years. But it doesn't matter because once symptoms set in, you're already dead. If a hamster gets too stressed, it will eat its kids. The FBI estimates there are between 25 to 50 active serial killers in the US at any given time. It was once thought for birds, parrots, magpies, to learn to talk, you had to release their tongue. This was done by cutting their tongue completely or partly off course without any anesthesia or painkillers. The tongue release plays absolutely no role in the bird's ability to talk. A man once had a tapeworm get cancer. That cancer metastasized, and the man died from tumors of tapeworm throughout his entire body. The #1 cause of death among pregnant women is murder. The little girl who voiced Ducky in the first Land Before Time, was murdered by her father before the movie came out. Her gravestone says yep yep yep. The search and rescue dogs on September 11th were getting so sad from finding only dead bodies, the human helpers buried themselves in the rubble so that the dogs could find them and be happy. According to the World Bank Group, the world produces about 2 billion tons of garbage every year. Most power outages in the US are caused by squirrels. The threat of a deadly bird flu spreading to humans is always there. It takes just a little bit of negligence in screening chickens for this to happen. Despite being the largest mammal, blue whales do not have large assholes. They defecate with an anus the size of a grapefruit. Himalayan blackberries can allegedly grow under your skin. There exist in the world, at this moment, more juggalos than polar bears. The youngest person to ever give birth to a baby was a 5-year-old little girl. The reason dogs love squeaky toys is because they sound like small animals dying. The image that most people have of blobfish is based on a misconception. People think that's what they look like all the time, but blobfish adapted to live in deep waters, which means the deeper you go, the more water pressure there is. Their bodies are not meaty like fish but more gelatinous because they adapted to the water pressure. If you accidentally pull them to higher levels but with less water pressure, their bodies don't handle it well. There's nothing keeping their bodies intact, so their bodies explode. Basically, every photo you've seen of a blobfish where they look big and pink and, of course, blobby is a photo of a dead blobfish. Merchandise and cartoons designed after what they look like dead. Hell, they're referred to as what they look like dead. During WW1 thousands of dogs were taken from families for the war effort, and when the war was over most of them were just shot because it was cheaper than feeding them for the trip home and finding their homes. Your intestines will wriggle themselves back into the correct position. Doctors who do any type of intestinal surgery don't have to worry too much about how they put the intestines back in. Every day several hundred babies are born in withdrawal. Oftentimes when pandas have cubs, if they have more than one they will choose which one to keep and abandon the other because she can't care for two. Grizzlies are the opposite. If they have a litter of just one, sometimes they'll abandon it and try to mate again the next year to try for a litter of multiple cubs. Sad face. Edited to add, thanks everyone. Never thought these sad bare facts would blow up. To all the people saying pandas are obeying China's one-child law, this is true. Pandas are good law-abiding bois and girls. To the person who gave me the wholesome award, maybe rethink your priorities, haha. But thank you nonetheless. Also, I think a cub exchange program between grizzlies and pandas is a superb idea. Let's get started on growler for bears, winky face. Certain sleep disorders that cause you to act out your dreams are strong predictors that you're developing a neurodegenerative disorder like Parkinson's or Lewy body dementia. I wish I didn't recently learn about it. Not me, a loved one. Some of us will die in a few hours. There is a non-zero maximum threshold for the amount of cockroach that can be present in ground coffee because it is literally impossible to keep them out entirely. In countries that require you to opt into organ donation, fewer than 15% of people register. In the US, an opt-in country, 18 people die every day waiting for an organ transplant. Opt-out countries see over 90% of their population registered for organ donation. Edit, glad this started a conversation. Here's the source I used. There are more deaths due to mental health issues than all forms of violence combined. People are struggling. Chronic wasting disease. Forgive me, I'm no expert, it's a prion disease. It's kind of like mad cow disease for deer. It's 100% fatal. The problem comes with the fact that prions cannot be destroyed. So the infected deer can urinate in a field, spreading this disease into the soil, then into the foods we eat. It's been shown to infect some primates as well. So the risk of human transmission must not be ignored. Learning that last night definitely kept me from sleeping soundly. ETA, I'm no expert on this by any means. So if you have relevant info to add or I need correcting, please do so. Edit 2, if you are concerned by the spread of chronic wasting disease and the potential it has to impact human health, I advise you all to reach out to your representatives and let them know that you want more federal funding invested to support the surveillance and research of CWD. It's not yet a public health crisis, and it might never become one, but we have the opportunity to prevent it from becoming one. Also shout out to you/food through Indo for educating me in regards to this. Sudden doomsday scenarios. Gamma ray bursts, for example, aimed at Earth, even if occurring hundreds of millions of light years away, could lead to the extinction of life on Earth. Bus seats are designed so that you cannot tell how dirty they really are. Dolphins who are sexually frustrated can rape/gang rape humans. If two male flatworms meet, they will sword fight with their dicks until one loses. The loser will become female and they will mate. Hitler admired America for the way we treated the Native Americans during the Trail of Tears. There's a government-led genocide going on in northern Ethiopia right now. Toddlers kill more people with guns than terrorists in the US. Ruthless babies. The constrictor knot is one of the most difficult knots to untie. After being tied, it can be nearly impossible to untie, once tightened. I'm assuming you misspelled knot in your question. Armadillos can carry leprosy and can pass to humans just by being in proximity. Kind of fits the mood of 2020 to 2021, one could argue. You can have an aneurysm and die at any moment. Drinking urine used to be a popular activity in ancient times. Edit. Physicians used to describe urine as a remedy for a number of diseases till a recent time when scientists discovered that there is no evidence to support any beneficial health claims of drinking urine. What I meant is that it was normalist back then, now it is practiced by few superstitious fanatics and porn weirdos. First responders are always at least minutes away, and you can die in seconds. We operate fast-moving death machines and are often separated from other operating them by nothing more than an agreement not to cross a yellow line that someone else painted. Gmail scans every photo you send on the service. Illegal pornography was smuggled so frequently on the service that they had to implement a bot to detect it. They will report you to authorities. While I'm sure the average user isn't smuggling this shit, they probably don't want all their pictures being looked at either. Live chat support agents can see what you type before you send it, so they can reply quicker. Your skeleton is WET. No one went to prison over the Panama Papers. Sloths only have enough energy for their weekly toilet trip to the jungle floor. If the baby falls from their underside in the trees onto the floor, they choose to preserve their energy and leave it to be eaten. The FDA allows a tiny amount of things like rat droppings or insect parts in certain foods. Imagine the worst torture you can think of, and some person in history has probably gone through it. There's something called a gamma ray burst. Basically, some stars will periodically produce a burst of gamma rays with no warning. If this happens to a star close enough to the Earth and hits the Earth, not all that unlikely, they spread out quite a bit while still being deadly, will be hit by a burst of gamma radiation with no warning. Every living thing on the side of the Earth it hits will die, and Earth's atmosphere will be permanently damaged. This could lead to most of, not all of, the population of the other side of the planet also dying. It's a civilization-ending event, and there's nothing we can do to defend against or predict it. Zombies are real. At least in the insect world. There is a whale called 52 Blue, that only sings at their frequency, meaning it can't communicate with other whales. It is nicknamed the loneliest whale on the planet. Quokkas, the world's happiest animal, will throw their babies at attackers if threatened. There are Demodex mites, crawling on your eyelashes right now, and there's nothing you can do about it. Only dumb serial killers are under investigation. We will never know about the smart ones. During the Seoul Olympics 1988, a large amount of doves were released into the stadium. When the giant brazier was lit, many of the released doves were sitting in it, resulted in many doves being burned alive. There is more slavery in the world right now than at any time in history. It's entirely possible that you care about more people than people care about you. Our heart is a muscle the size of a rat. To make it into the richest 1% globally, all you need is an income of around $34,000. Prions. Just, everything about prions. You are significantly closer to being homeless than you are to being a millionaire. Eating undercooked pork can have worse results than just food poisoning. Undercooked pork can contain parasites that burrow into your brain and lay eggs. Side effects includes many different neurological symptoms, like seizures, dizziness, etc. If untreated for long enough, can lead to death. Your hard-earned money loses value every day. Frogs don't feel love. After 51 years, someone cracked the second code from the Zodiac serial killer, and it doesn't reveal anything, just gibberish. Edit. I realize many people are confused by my meaning of gibberish. The secret message is cracked and reveals real and understandable words and sentences, but the message itself doesn't reveal anything important and is just random BS Zodiac pulled out of his ass. We are currently 40 weeks into our 2-week lockdown. The most common way for sloths to die is by mistaking their own arm for a tree branch, and falling to their death that way. HMAS Sydney in World War II tried to stop a random freighter for a check. The commander was placed under conflicting orders. If he judged it could be a German supply ship, he was to get as close as possible to board and capture it so it couldn't be scuttled in time. If he judged it to be a German merchant cruiser, so a heavily armed ship in disguise, and allowed ruse as long as it revealed its true identity before the first shot. It was to stay as far away as possible so the superior guns and the own armor. The merchant cruisers didn't have any armor and their guns were WWI veterans, could be used to best advantage. The commander decided for the harmless freighter/supply ship. It was German merchant cruiser Cormoran, which could open fire on point-blank range so that her guns couldn't miss and Sydney's armor didn't help. The two ships sunk each other in the battle. Sydney was lost with all hands. Sometimes you're the bad guy. Between 10 and 20% of US adults are functionally illiterate. This does not mean they can't read or write at all, but that they cannot comprehend what they are reading at a high enough level to do many basic tasks, like filling out a form. To make matters worse, a very large proportion of these people do not realize they have a problem with literacy and self-report as being fine at reading and writing. Someday you will pick up your child, put them down and never pick them up again. Every 41 seconds in the USA somebody kills themselves. Men's belts are the dirtiest item of clothing. Touched after pooping and before washing hands, never washed, and worn daily for years. Thank you for watching the video. Welcome to Reddit Wisdom. Here you will learn the wisdom of the crowd, the wisdom of Reddit. Please consider subscribing for more Reddit wisdom.